JP, the menace of corruption is eating into the vitals of our economy. Can you give us three ideas to fight corruption? Immediate, short term, long term.
First, we must recognize that we as a people are no more corrupt than the rest of the world. Somehow, there is an increasing feeling in recent times that Indians are all terrible. It's not true. Indians are as moral as anybody else in the world. 90% of Indians are very clean, very moral. If today law is upheld, if society is safe, if there is peace prevailing, it's not because of the police forces and laws, it's because Indian people have high sense of values. First, let us shed this self-flagellation, this belief that we are all rotten. Now, the three things are: one, a great statesman, Gladstone, said, the purpose of a government is to make it easy for people to do good and difficult to do evil. We have not made that happen. What we require is, if there is corruption, we must create a mechanism by which no matter how high the person is, he will be brought to book, the properties will be confiscated, the fellow will go to jail, and he will lose all power and privilege. All the struggle about Lokpal, Lokayukta and many other things really is a part of this package. We all made it into one symbol called Lokpal. Actually, it's much more than that. It is about confiscation of properties. In a country like India, even more than a jail term, an assured loss of all property and becoming a pauper, not being able to transfer property to your children, not only the ill-gotten gains, but everything, that actually has a greater value in deterring future criminals and future corrupt fellows. So that's the system we need to have, and that must be beyond power. No matter how powerful you are, Nixon was removed from office for relatively minor misdeeds as the President of the United States. That's the kind of thing we require. Independent crime investigation, there are many things, I don't want to go into details. The second big thing is, make it easy for simple things to happen without people having to take recourse to corruption. Today, most people are forced to pay a small bribe to get a small thing done, which is a matter of right. We must distinguish between two forms of corruption. One is the collusive corruption, like the 2G spectrum, like the land scams, the mining, and many other things. We are all very familiar in India and in Karnataka and in Andhra Pradesh. That is where collusion is there. Both the bribe giver and bribe taker have colluded to defraud the country. But there are a large number of cases of corruption where the bribe giver is a victim. In this city, for instance, Syed Kirmani, when he was a test cricketer, he told me that he was compelled to pay a small bribe to get a death certificate. And a test cricketer is a god in India and in Karnataka and in Bengaluru city. But you are compelled. Now here the bribe giver must not be taken as a criminal. It's a stupid approach. It is something that's a matter of routine. A birth certificate, a ration card, a death certificate, a municipal water connection, etc., if you fulfill all the norms. But you have made it impossible. In those cases, make it easy to get the service. That's where citizens' charters and penalties for non-delivery of services. Impose a timeline, and if it doesn't happen in those days, give a reasonable time. Then for every day's delay, there must be a penalty on the fellow who is supposed to give the service. There must be a compensation to the person who is suffered because of delay. Make it work through a legal process. Then you will see a dramatic change. The third thing is decentralize power. Take away discretion, decentralize power, and wherever possible bring in competition. Telephones were not possible 20 years ago without corruption. Today, nobody, 84 crore telephone consumers in India, not one person says that he had to pay a bribe to get a telephone connection. What happened? Competition and choice and technology. Similarly, decentralize power, make it as local as possible, bring in transparency and technology and competition, and empower local governments and communities, as Dr. Ashwin Mahesh is saying. You will see that a lot of corruption will diminish because people will then become hawks. It's their money in their locality. They know where the money is going. They know where the corruption is. They have the power to make a difference. They will start shouting and they'll change things. Do these three things systematically, you will bring down corruption 90%. There are many other forms of corruption, but you can address them.
I want to intervene here. You spoke about systemic changes. Take, for instance, a government official asks me for a bribe to get things done. What should I do? I know very well that if I refuse to pay, I will be just running from pillar to post. What should a citizen do? What should I do?
Now, what we should do is what's called collective informed assertion. With knowledge, without knowledge, oftentimes we have become victims of a bribe because we don't even know the detail. I'm not going to expect everybody to know the detail. I was in government for 16 years. I knew everything about everything practically, and yet I did not know that as a petrol consumer of my car, I had the right to ask that retail dealer to deliver the petrol not in my tank but in a container that I give him. I did not know. Only in Lok Satta movement, when we did some research, we realized that I am not really helpless. I can actually have a container which is already pre-calibrated by 5 liters, 10 liters, I know. I can ask him to fill that can instead of my tank, and therefore the game is up if there is a short delivery there. So I am giving one simple example. There are 100 such examples. Knowledge is important. Knowledge gaining individually is not that easy. Therefore, collective work, both to transfer knowledge and to be able to fight collectively. An individual going to an office saying, I want this certificate, it's very difficult. If an organization is there together, if the knowledge is available, if people like Dr. Ashwin Mahesh, they're heading that organization. People like you are all involved, you're heading that organization. Once your credibility, your public profile, and your knowledge and your leadership come to the fore, the moment a citizen fights is no longer as an individual. Then we must have innovative techniques of assertion. We must know how to intelligently, in a very innovative manner, without too much of effort, get the results. For instance, as I told you, in case of petrol bunks, this is what we did in Hyderabad and Andhra Pradesh in 1998
like that,
on October 2nd. The moment we took these cans and asked them to fill it, all the 1500 petrol bunks of Andhra Pradesh, the meters were set right within 15 days. Because the government department that was corrupt, it understood that their game was up. They could not persevere with that. Though contamination was going on, adulteration was going on, because that is much harder to resist for citizens. We know we are taken for a ride, but we can't answer that. But the meter tampering has gone, and most of India it has gone, not 100% but 90%. In those days it was 10% tampering. That means for 10 liters we are losing 1 liter. Today for 10 liters you are losing 150 milliliters. We are still losing, but 85% reduction in short delivery. And Indian consumers benefited to a tune of 2 lakh crores in the past 10 years, in the past 14 years on account of this. 2 lakh crore rupees without much effort. So that innovative approach, so collective informed assertion. Don't make it a moral issue every day. Don't wring your hands in despair. And if you are compelled to pay 50 rupees one day because you had to get that certificate in order to get a passport or something, don't think that you are a crook. Don't self-flagellate yourself. That is not necessary. You are a victim. Accept that you are a victim and just say, damn it, now henceforth I shall not be a victim. As somebody said after the Second World War, we must take 3 pledges. First, I shall not be a perpetrator. Second, I shall not be a victim. Third and most important, I shall not be a passive bystander. I will stand up and be counted.
That's good. Dr. JP, Ashwin knows a lot about the Namma Bengaluru Foundation. I want to ask you, Dr. JP, Namma Bengaluru Foundation has a practical approach to cities' problems. It takes up issues concerning citizens that affect their day-to-day life. It doesn't mind filing PILs in courts to get justice to citizens. What is your opinion? Does Lok Satta play a similar role?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We must take whatever legal and constitutional instrument that is available to fight the cause. Not everything requires the same approach. For instance, as I mentioned to you, when it came to the petrol stations, we used this simple technique. We used knowledge as a tool. We made it a high-profile public activity, and suddenly things changed dramatically in Andhra Pradesh first and across the country later. Right now, we are filing a public interest litigation in respect of ACB transfers and postings. Already the Supreme Court gave a verdict long ago in the Vinith Narayan case that the CBI or investigative agencies cannot be the political parties' fiefdoms. They have to be autonomous in functioning. But it's not applied in states at all. In Delhi, at least something has happened, though it's not good enough. Now we are going to file that. We will certainly win that.